Good afternoon and welcome, gaming fans, and welcome to our TriFox Weekly with the twist. We have a bit of a marathon session going on today. It's a race for trying to top the current world 80% world record. We have four volunteers. We have Saint Joe, Pika Pals, Ludris, and the current world record holder, Half Beastie, here on Speed Gaming for this TriFox Weekly. Really looking forward to this particular race today. My name's Vitasia. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We have 3 hours to try to top the current 80% world record set by Half Beastie at 53 minutes and 8 seconds. So there is going to be lots of resets going on, lots of opportunities for people to make some really risky plays. But you have to have an entire playthrough. Trying to beat that 53 minutes and 8 seconds time. We are giving out some prizes for those folks with the best time. We have a $100 prize for any runner with the best time, and we do have a $50 second place prize. So there is cash money on the line today. We've been having these TriFox races for quite a while now, and the tech has evolved quite a bit. So let's see if we can go ahead and break this record, shall we? Well, I think the runners are all set up and ready to go. And before long, we're going to get them set up. And, they have their own internal timers that they're running. So whenever the runners are ready, I'm sure they will be off any second. If you have any questions in chat, go ahead and put them in chat. And I will do my best to answer as many of them as I can. And once again, we appreciate everyone coming out. Looks like Peak is on his way out, and Ludris. Excellent. We have all of our runners who are now off to the races now. Get to skip all of the cutscenes. I remember when we first started these TriFox races, we could not skip any of the cutscenes, so we had to kind of go through everything. So a lot of changes have gone over this TriFox since the launch of the game just about, 2.5 months ago now? 2.5, 3 or so? And of course, the first major decision, which isn't much of a decision at all for most folks, let's go ahead and get this warrior dash in and unlocked, and that's the first thing that we're going to do. We will eventually unlock at least the mage one, but we'll also have to do the engineer because the engineer has some nifty tools as well. But dashing is very important between the dash and the hammer attack that we're going to get here directly, that both Half Beastie and Pika Pals are going to be showing us here directly. But Ludris and St. Joe at this point in time will be doing something very similar. Credit to this speedrunning community as well. There has been a ton of research that has been done since the release of this particular game, not just in the best speedrunning route, because it's not just about routing things. It's about making sure that you have the right abilities unlocked, and it's also and build, but it's also about managing how much money you have, because the money that you get and the money routes that you do help dictate how early you can get some abilities. So there's absolutely tons of research that has been done by members of this community to quickly assess and try to, break this game as quickly as possible. And you see, Half Beastie, the current world record holder, is already at about 2 minutes going into World 1-1 outside of the introductory level. Of course, the main thing to realize in any speedrunning is you don't waste time killing stuff that you don't have to. And that's just good speedrunning 101 for everything. And it looks like both Half Beastie and Pika Pals are setting up and moving through here quite quickly. St. Joe and Ludris right on their tail, of course. Thank you all of the runners for participating quite as well. big shout out to the entire community for joining us over here on Speed Gaming. And this little setup that Half Beastie is doing is done to he moves a stick that's over there to sit on the gauge in order to unlock the door. It's kind of a nice little trick in order to make sure that you can open this door as quickly as possible before our very first boss fight. Ludris looks like struggling a little bit with this jump. Normally, you have to keep these, pillars, up and down, and you have to raise them a little bit in order to make the proper ladder. But with that warrior dash, it becomes much easier to skip things. Meanwhile, Pika Pals and Half Beastie are both just seconds behind each other. We'll have to make sure to verify times, of course, but Half Beastie looks like he's picking up just a few more coins before dashing in. St. Joe is now on that boss fight as well. Meanwhile, Ludris is on this point where you got to make sure that everything's pushed down properly. The problem is those enemies don't want to let you do it. It's like they're enemies designed in this game that don't want you to go fast or something. Alright, meanwhile, Half Beastie and Pika through and on their way to World 2. They have done their purchasing. Looks like they've unlocked the engineers with the turrets. Now, these turrets are incredibly important to this particular speed run in TriFox. Not only do they do nice damage, nice consistent damage, but they also act as a placeable platform that you can put down, that you can jump around on, which is just absolutely critical at this point in time, because anytime you can place your platform down, it allows you to do things like Pika is highlighting, just fantastic skips that normally we're not supposed to do. Half Beastie is looks like both Pika and Half Beastie are kind of stuck in a small place right now, but they are around and they are through those invisible walls that are up there, so they can skip 90% of this level, honestly. Looks like St. Joe is also set up to do that. Both Pika Pals and Half Beastie look like they got hung up just slightly, so I don't know if this is going to be a perfect speed run at this point, but it is worth noting, that would be some time that either of these runners could certainly shave off a little bit later. This next part is a crab gauntlet, for lack of a better term. We're going to both sides and just unlocking a bunch of crabs and going to be absolutely destroying them. St. Joe doing this first kind of out-of-bounds skip right now. Ludris went ahead and reset. He was not happy with his early times and said, I know I can do better. So that is our first reset on Ludris' side. Of course, Pika Pals and Half Beastie are showing off how important that flame turret is, not just from a platforming perspective, but also it deals quite a bit of damage in a cone in front of it whenever there's any sort of enemies. And these crabs just melt, really. St. Joe looks like he's also a little bit upset with himself about his first run and getting over that first skip, so looks like he is also resetting right away. Worth noting that we now have Selkuth Mind, who is also one of the members of the community, switched over here. So welcome, Self. Looks like he is also resetting and going to be starting over. So St. Joe and Cell are both on resets. Meanwhile, Half Beastie and Pika Pals are on the first crab boss. Worth noting that this particular level that Pika Pals and Half Beastie are just absolutely destroying was kind of the intro level when the company first released the game. And this was kind of the demo level that they had out and says, hey, guys, play with it and try to beat this as quickly as you can. And we've come a long way in speedrunning since those first initial speedruns, our first out-of-bounds skips that ended up happening. So at this point in time, looks like Pika is slightly ahead of Half Beastie, the current world record holder, while St. Joe, that was about 850 or so. So that's a time to clock, through the level 1-2 at about 850 or so. And we have World 1-3 right at the moment on Pika and Half Beastie side. And, the third level in every world is always fun to me because there's a theme with these TriFox levels. And the third level in every world has always been the, all right, we're going to start above ground, then somehow fall underground and have to climb ourselves out, Indiana Jones style, back to the beginning. And so far that's held true. We will get there eventually. And Pika Pal's just slightly ahead of Half Beastie right now. This is an interesting matchup between the two. Slight cutscene, and oh yeah, look, the machine gun guys, and we fall into the underground. All right, and both runners are. It doesn't matter kind of which side you end up choosing to do. You have to do both sides either way. But it does look like Pika and Half Beastie are doing different sides of this dungeon first. This could be interesting for both of them because, you do want to dash through quite a bit. There's some really interesting platforming that goes on in this particular level. Not only spikes that you have to make sure you miss, but also on Half Beastie's side, it's effectively climbing out of a pit, so there's a lot of platforming and a lot of use of your turrets. With Pika Pal's side, it's a bit more of a gauntlet to hit certain buttons to get yourself out. So they are highlighting both sides of this particular speedrun level. And there, Half Beastie showed us exactly why we're using the turret platforms here. Now, this is interesting because this is where a lot of speedrunners end up losing quite a bit of time, is on this level, because you need to use the turret platforms so efficiently. But Half Beastie makes it look easy on his side. So they both return to the center area and will now be doing effectively what each other has already done. Meanwhile, over on Selkuth Mind's side, looks like he's set up and is getting everything set up close. Trying to get that stick over onto the platform, which... the enemies are not cooperating. It looks like destroyed it. So he's going to have to set one down. and then have to do this one manually. That's unfortunate. It happens, but yeah, it's like the game does not want you to speedrun and intends you to defeat the enemies instead of standing still on a button. Makes sense. Satan Joe now getting set up, doing his build purchases, and now has the turret, and he will be on his World 1-2 shortly as well. Pika-Pal's getting a little bit hung up there, unfortunately, but now set up on the turrets. Half Beastie is finishing up all of his button presses. Yeah, as Pika-Pal showed you right there, there is about a half second from when you first deploy the turrets to the point where you can kind of jump through them before they kind of fully materialize, and then you can land on top of it. If not, you kind of have to do an awkward jump around on top of it, and getting that timing right is key, really, to this speed run. Meanwhile, Half Beastie and Pika are both through. St. Joe is now set up, almost set up, trying to get this skip down. Cell finishes his purchases and is also about to start the 1-2 skip. Alright, so Half Beastie and Pika-Pals are now on the enemy gauntlet. There's a traditional enemy gauntlet at the end of the third stage in every world. So, moving through. St. Joe is now in World 2. He is on the Crab Gauntlet as well. And Cell is on his way to do this first World 1-2 out of bounds skip. Hey Jose, we appreciate it. I see you also, Tango. Alright, Half Beastie through at about 1550, so we got through originally at 850, so that, the third level takes quite a bit of time, but we are on to the fourth world, which typically the fourth stage is always just a boss. And we see something interesting. We see Pika-Pals going ahead and making a purchase right now that we did not see Half Beastie do. Pika is going to be using that extra purchase. I think that was a missile, actually, to help do some extra damage to this boss. Reminder for everyone, thank you for joining in. We are in the middle of a 3-hour TriFox marathon race to beat the world record. Current world record is at 53 minutes and 8 seconds, set by one of our runners right now, Half Beastie. So, meanwhile, both Half Beastie and Pika-Pals are on the first boss. They, of course, what you got to do is knock him off his platform, knock it down, and then just really try to lower his health as much as you possibly can. Worth noting, Pika-Pals is using the engineer's turret or gun as opposed to the warrior's hammer right now. Now, Oh, he's also using the hammer. Okay, so he's using both. And Pika Pals and Half Beastie are back through it. We remember Half Beastie started this fight a little bit sooner, so that extra purchase that Pika did, certainly worthwhile, making up a little bit of time here. And of course, what happens when you drink the strain juice and the explosive batteries. I don't recommend anyone do that at home, ever. Meanwhile, St. Joe is through, and Cell is now on the out-of-bounds clip right now, so he is on good pace. Neither St. Joe is a little bit behind, about 2 minutes from the pace set earlier by Pika Pals and Half Beastie, so worth noting that they were at about 8:50, and he got through there a little over about 10:50, 11 minutes or so. So, a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes. Meanwhile, Pika Pals has a little bit of a straight line lead on Half Beastie, the current world record holder. So we are off to World 2 now. Looks like going to be doing some more purchasing. Picking up the Mage Ball in particular. Half Beastie instead picking up just the missile that we saw Pika had picked up earlier. Jasper, thank you so much for the question. What is Chase for the record? The current world record is 53 minutes and 8 seconds. All of these runners on stream have the ability to do as many resets as they want, but this is a 3-hour marathon. It is submit a time as fast as you can make it for a full any percent speed run. The idea being we're trying to break this world record here. World record is currently 53 minutes and 8 seconds. You have 3 hours to submit your best time. Alright, so both runners are now making their way through. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of skipping to be done in World 2-1. It's relatively linear. You're going through and you're getting this turret as quickly as you can, but as soon as you get that turret, you are effectively just locked in and you're doing whatever you can to kill everything and then take a magic cart ride through the rest of this level. But it is... depending on how you play this game, because you can play it with a controller or with a keyboard and mouse. And I've known quite a few people that say this level in particular makes them want to play keyboard and mouse because this level is just point and click. It's a point and click adventure if you're on keyboard and mouse, but on a controller it's a little bit more difficult. Alright, so both Pika and Half Beastie are now on their way through. And, of course, a bit of a minecart chase. You want to make sure to blow up those green explosions before they get too close to you so that you're not doing damage to you. But this is otherwise a bit of an auto level, and these are the types of levels that speedrunners hate because we can't go any faster. And it's unfortunate, which just, hey, let's survive this gauntlet of a level and not die. Because dying is the ultimate time lost. And the game gives you illusions that there's different things, different cart tracks and stuff you can take. I don't believe there's any difference between any of the tracks, or if there is anything with the different paths. It's all very, very linear, unfortunately. Meanwhile, checking in, St. Joe is on World 1-3. Cell is also on World 1-3 as well. So those two have already done one reset. They kind of got hung up on the World 1-2 skip, so opted to do a reset pretty quickly. And it looks like Pika is through at about 23:05, and Half Beastie right on his tail. These two are putting on a heck of a show here. Alright, so we are on to World 2-2, and there's some interesting out-of-bounds skips that both Pika Pals and Half Beastie are trying to show us right now. These are, there's a little bit that's off-screen, so it gets a little bit difficult. Half Beastie here, the current world record holder, getting set up on these turrets. Pika Pals, though, is certainly showing off his mastery as well. He's certainly done his practice. So he's slightly ahead in the out-of-bounds race in order to get over here to the final area where we will have a bit of a gauntlet to face. Meanwhile, Cell is looks like is in the underground, so he's in the middle of World 1-3. And same with St. Joe, so they're both on World 1-3. This is where both runners ended up picking up the magic ball. That magic ball from the magician line does a ton of explosion damage, and certainly worth picking up. The problem is that it can deal damage to you too as well, so it's always worth. It takes a little bit of control, and we can see Half Beastie certainly worried a little bit about his health right there. And Half Beastie did take a death there. It looks like Pika Pals is doing all right in the middle of a cutscene right now. But yeah, that's the difficulty with the Mage Ball there. You can take quite a bit of damage from the various explosions that are going on. But otherwise, Half Beastie is through. And both runners are very quickly through World 1-2 and on their way to World 1-3. The next stage of, hey, it's time to dive deep into the underground. And it is almost time. World 1-3 is best known as time for a bit of a coffee break. Meanwhile, St. Joe is finished with World 1-3 with his enemy gauntlet. Cell is still working his way through the underground. So we are dropped down into this nasty, what is normally meant to be a survival mode section. But, yeah, you can do all that if you want to, I suppose. Or you can do what Pika Pals is doing right now. And that's jump up on the ledge and jump back up into the control room. And coffee break time. Half Beastie is also back here picking up his coins. Coffee break, folks. If you have beverage of your choice, now's the time to go refill it. Because otherwise, this is a survival section where we're just hanging out in the control room. So, get your beverages. Meanwhile, it looks like St. Joe is on his boss fight in World 1-4. Cell is finishing up World 1-3. It looks like is in the second basement section. All right, and both Pika Pals and Half Beastie recognize that, okay, it's time. Let's move. And we are off to the races. We are dashing, and a little bit of an issue there by Pika Pals, but didn't lose a whole lot of time there because he just respawned right where he jumped off from. You see, both Pika and Half Beastie appears to have completely switched over their toolkits. They've moved away from the Warrior Hammer and are just exclusively onto the Engineering Gatling gun at this point in time. It ends up doing more damage, and you can focus fire from a lot farther away. Of course, we're using kind of a hybrid Engineer Magician toolkit with the Warrior Dash right at the moment, because that's how speedrunners do. Placing down turrets to make sure that we can respond appropriately, and you see both Half Beastie and Pika Pals are mirroring each other quite a bit in similar what they do, launching mage balls up north, making very efficient use of their resources right now, and they are set up quite well. Pika putting on a bit of a light show with his spinning around. I see you, Pika. And just amazing, amazing movement from both of these two. This is going to be a fantastic race, I think, because we're only on World 2. We're about halfway through the race, all told. We're at about 30 minutes for both Pika Pals and Half Beastie. Remember, the current world record is 53 minutes. So, and both of these guys are on, it's not quite world record pace, but it's close. We have a little mini boss here, which is something that I really appreciated about the design of TriFox, and I mentioned this on other broadcasts, but this is a mini boss that certainly trains you how to deal with it properly, because it goes into, with the different knocking down the panels and then activating the panels. That's effectively all the final boss of World 2 does. So, great game design in terms of training you how to deal with the final boss. St. Joe, meanwhile, over here on World 2-1, is on his minecart here shortly. Cell about to start his World 2-1 as well. Alright, so Half Beastie, meanwhile, certainly making they're both making very quick work of everything. These are effective enemy gauntlets at this point in time in a very similar room. No way to cheese this. I think the folks in the community have done all they can to try to figure out, is there a way to get through the ceiling or the floor to skip anything? No such luck. World 2, we have the major skip in World 2-2 that the runners will be showing us here for a little. Oh, there's Cell in World 1-4. Okay. St. Joe is on World 2-1, so he's coming to the major skip in World 2-2 here soon. In the meantime, Half Beastie and Pika Pals are neck and neck in this particular run in terms of just doing their very best to get through here as quickly as they can. And of course, the laser grids are not always cooperating. That's fine. That's what they're there for. So cutscenes for both Pika Pals and Half Beastie almost simultaneously. As the elevator continues to descend ever so slowly until we are just about through World 2-3 here. Yeah, we do have, by all rights, look, this isn't copyright infringement, certainly, but it certainly looks like an AT-AT. So, we're taking out an AT-AT. That fire, with a Gatling gun and magic missiles. That works. It's not magic missiles, it's a magic ball. Okay, fair. Alright, so Half Beastie is through at about the 34-minute mark, moving on to the final boss of World 2, so 2-4. St. Joe, meanwhile, setting up his 2-2 skip directly. Pika Pals is finishing up the final boss and is just immediately through that door. Cell, meanwhile, setting up, making his purchases between World 1-4 and World 2-1. And here's where things get difficult. We have seen many a speed run get set up on this World 2-4 boss because of all the different panels and all the different area of effect things that are going on. This is a visually stunning and very complicated fight. Effectively, we have to clear down the barriers and make sure that we can get turn on the switches to electrocute the boss. We cannot damage the boss directly. We have to hit a bunch of switches and do different phases. So turrets come down where we know enemies are going to spawn, and we do our very best to kill everything as quickly as we can because we have to cycle things properly to the point where we can damage the boss again afterwards. St. Joe, meanwhile, makes it through his World 2-2 skip. Very, very good time. Meanwhile, Cell starts his World 2-1 and doing quite a bit of damage right now. Just has to get everything set up and move around. He's not quite on the turret part yet. And we saw Half Beastie take a death there, unfortunate. Alright, so Pika Pal's there showing, okay, I think that's, we just one more hit on the boss, one more trigger, but this is where things get a little bit difficult. You want to make sure to do, minimize the damage to yourself, because there's lots of area of effects, lots of missiles being thrown into the ground, and of course, lots of floor being electrocuted right now, so you want to do your best to survive at this point. It does look like Half Beastie is now through that. So he is done. Oh, that wasn't a death, that was just the phase transition. Okay, I see what happened. I thought Half Beastie had died and it was just a phase transition. My fault. So we are now moving on to World 3-1. And for this one, for World 3-1, this is the first time we change away from the Warrior Dash. We change over to the Mage, Teleport, which is the Mage's movement ability. It is not quite as fast, but it can get you into some interesting spots. Meanwhile, St. Joe is on his coffee break right now, and Cell is in the middle of his World 2-1 minecart dash. Half Beastie and Pika Pals. Meanwhile, in World 3-1, it is, there are lots of skips available, but using that mage teleport is important. It lets us, yeah, there's an invisible roof that we can get on top of, and we can skip just about the whole level. World 3 has just all sorts of fantastic skips that we can do. Pika also ends up getting that skip. As expected, both these runners are doing incredible. Now, this is an enemy gauntlet, which, again, we've seen many times runners take quite a bit of damage on this. You have to manage your health. You have to manage the health refills that come through here quite a bit, because a death here can really, put a damper on that time. And again, we're trying to beat this world record here. I believe when the world record was set, there was no deaths through the whole thing. Bell, meanwhile, on his World 2-2 skip, getting that set up reasonably. Meanwhile, St. Joe is on 2-3. World 2-3 really is, I think, the longest level in the game at this point in time from a speedrunning perspective, just because there's nothing we can skip. Both Half Beastie and Pika Pals are in the process of trying to kill everything in here. And that's, I think, one of the other difficult things about this particular, you don't have the Warrior Dash, which is what you're used to. You're trying to survive. We see Pika Pal sitting there with only one health pot left. Oh, he got some health. But, there's lots of little nooks and crannies that enemies can hide in, so sometimes they can jump out at you. But you're still trying to kill them efficiently. So, Half Beastie is a little bit worrying there with his one health pot as well. So hoping that, looks like he's looking for a little bit of health as well. Alright, both runners are set up and in a little bit of trouble. I mean, this is... Alright, Pika does get through. It looks like Half Beastie does get through. So both runners survive this without a death. That is fantastic. So we're at 41-22. Forgive me, I'm just taking notes because as this is a marathon, not all runners are always going to be at kind of the same spots. We expect there to be some repeats. I think both Pika and Half Beastie are just wanting to turn in a time first, and then they're going for optimization after they turn in at least one time. World 3-2, though, has, I believe there's also quite a few skips that have been discovered in this one by the community. Almost as many as in World 3-3, which has been just completely destroyed. The third world of every level, 1-3, 2-3, and 3-3, have all had, are all the longest of every world. But I tell you what, the work that the community has done in terms of figuring out the different shortcuts is just amazing. World 3-2 does have a bit of a blind jump, though, associated with it. So we will be getting there shortly, but Half Beastie and Pika Pals are at least doing the things they need to do to get set up for it right now. Okay, so they are off. Oh, Pika a little bit hung up. And here comes the line jump here, coming up directly for both of them. And looks like Half Beastie got that set up perfectly. Pika Pals looks like he had a little bit different of a setup, but still got there. So good job, Pika. And we are on to a mini boss of World 3-3. Cell, meanwhile, on his coffee break section, and St. Joe is on one of the mini boss sections of World 2-3 as well. Still a lot of damage going out in these mini boss sections, but it's relatively straightforward. It's, destroy the crystal mini boss sections. And when you destroy the crystal, of course, the crystal then becomes 5 crystals on the outside wall that you have to destroy. Just all very, reminiscent of standard magician tropes. And I just realized, and I cannot believe, I have been playing this game and commentating on it since it came out back in November. And I am just now putting 2 and 2 together. That World 1's boss was a warrior, World's 2 boss is an engineer, and World's 3 boss is a magician, which is the 3 lines that we can build for our character, the warrior, magician, and engineer line. Guys, I'm not smart, but I'm just realizing that. Warrior world, engineer world, and magician world. Huh. Pika Pals, though, this is the first real separation, so he's starting at 45-25, entering World 3-3 with a bit of a lead on Half Beastie. It's not much, but it's it's about 15 seconds, which is the first time we've seen any separation, really, between Pika Pals and Half Beastie. Now, World 3-3 is going to be politely what I call completely broken by these runners. Oh, Beastie did take a death? Okay, yeah. I thought I might have seen it, but then I previously had called something out. So, Pika Pals, meanwhile, is not doing Skull Skip. Half Beastie is doing Skull Skip, which completely skips that whole skull section that we just saw a little bit earlier. Pika Pals is instead opting to skip that over to this portion. So Half Beastie, it looks like Skull Skip is not treating. He's having to do a couple resets over here. So trying to get this Skull Skip done. Now he's through it. Problem is, it's how much at this point. I think it's cost him more time than it's saved, because Pika is already rolling and is skipping just about everything else in this world up to this point in time, getting set up on. Yep. So he is absolutely just making short work of these platforms and everything else that you have to do. So 2 crystals down for Pika. You do have to destroy kind of all the crystals, although Pika Pals is now set up. This is a new skip that was at least when right before I went on my winter break, this entire area was discovered to be skippable, and we can get over this wall. And it does look like Pika is up to date on that knowledge, so he is jumping over, and we are through the level at 48-10. And 3-3 done. Very well done. So we are on to the boss, which, again, can be done very quickly, but it can be a little bit difficult, and it's really easy to take a death as well. Looks like Cell just took a death on the boss in 2-4. St. Joe is set up, and they are, looks like, is also set up just to start on the boss as well. And it looks like at this point, Half Beastie is saying, no, I lost too much time on the skull skip. It is time to reset so I can turn in a good time. So Half Beastie will be starting over. I have a couple times written down here, but I'm going to do my best to also write down all the other pace times that we have right now. Meanwhile, St. Joe is through the boss and now set up and is making purchases around. Looks like he's also getting a Warrior Slam, getting some Warrior abilities that neither Pika Pals or Half Beastie have picked up to this point in time. And we see Pika Pals these aren't necessarily out of bounds on the boss, but they are certainly set up. Oh no! Oh! Okay, so we got most of the crystals down there on Pika's side. But yeah, so those go down, and we are done with that particular boss. And no need for treasures. We've bought everything we need to. So Pika Pals is through at about 50-30 from the boss. So now we are on to everyone's favorite Hamster Ball of Death. World 4, which is really just a boss fight. But we have quite a bit of fun coming for us. The Hamster Ball is just fantastic. Meanwhile, catching up, St. Joe is set up. Looks like he's doing... he is on World 3-1. Half Beastie has not yet started his new run, just shaking things off a little bit. Yeah, St. Joe is in this really kind of dangerous part where there's enemies coming from all over and the health pots are limited here. So you have to be very careful about taking excess damage going on right now. But Pika Pal sets up... it's the Hamster Ball. Everyone's favorite. You are effectively invulnerable, but you gotta go fast. Meanwhile, Cell is on World, looks like 3-3. Or 2-3, I'm sorry. World 2-3. St. Joe is on World 3-1 at the Gauntlet. Pika Pals is finishing up in the Hamster Ball stage. World 4, so making a wreck of things, moving reasonably efficiently through here. And Half Beastie has started his new game. So we're going to be moving through here. Nice setup on the hamster ball, and we're making decent time through here, all things said. Worth noting that Pika Pal's at 53 just passed the current world record at 53.08. So no world record for Pika Pals, but still pacing everyone else on the run today. So keep it up, Pika Pals. Remember, we do have prizes for the winner of the race today. $100 for turning in the fastest time today. And $50 for second place as well. So all right, and Pika Pals is now on his way. This is the final boss, so he's trying to get everything set up reasonably well. Wanting to make sure you're in safe zones and doing damage in the correct, to the joints of this monstrosity. Alright, so up and falling off a little bit, taking 1 damage from falling off. It does look like Half Beastie is in the, okay, let's turn in the best time we can. So we're in optimization mode on Half Beastie's side. St. Joe, meanwhile, is set up for his blind jump in World 3-2. And Cell is about to take on the boss in World 2-4. Alright, so Pika Pals is so far very strong, and this boss is just melting up to this point in time. Doing everything he can to dash around. Half Beastie is on his way as well. Turning in a good resetting up to this point in time. Back at the start, we saw that, of course, Half Beastie is turning in some pretty good times up to this point in time, and that's it. He is destroyed. Just a quick cutscene, and we are turning in our final time. And we get our, of course, the whole reason behind the entire quest. And we enter final area 56-36, which is good enough for second on the leaderboards on speedruns.com. So well done, Pika Pals, for turning in good enough for second place overall. We'll see if Pika is going to be doing some more runs here, because remember, this is a 3-hour marathon. We are here for, we're about an hour in. We are here for another 2 hours. And at this point, it is a game of optimization. Who can turn in the best time? So Pika Pal so far at 56-36 is the current leader for the day. Half Beastie, meanwhile, has already got started on his second run. The other runners, both St. Joe and Cell, have both already reset once for the day. They were not happy with their initial openings, so they have opted to reset a little bit earlier than Half Beastie. We're going to get Ludris back on stage. Looks like he is currently in the process of doing... looks like he's trying to get Skull Skip done. And this was the point, this was the skip that Half Beastie was trying to do when he opted to just reset because he was not able to get this one done cleanly. Meanwhile, Half Beastie is in Warrior World, first end of the first stage. Does look like Ludris is also restarting as well after that skull skip. That skull skip is really. I've heard it talked about. I've not been able to do it myself. It's one of those things that saves you only about 4 or 5 seconds, I think, total. But can cost you quite a bit of time if you end up missing it. So the fact that it takes place in World 3-3 at the very beginning means you're about 40 minutes into a run before you even get a chance to try it. Meanwhile, Half Beastie is just set up, so he's on his way to World 1-2. St. Joe, meanwhile, is on. He did not opt for Skull Skip, so he is on World 3-3. And again, this is one of those worlds that has been parsed and dissected, and there's so much available to break in it. For example, right here, I believe we can place a turret in such a way that, yeah, we're placing it inside, and it's damaging a crystal that normally we would need to have unlocked for us. So St. Joe showing that off quite well for us. Meanwhile, Half Beastie and both Ludris are in the first worlds. And of course, yep, those buttons are never cooperating. There's always something trying to knock us off them. Looks like Cell was not able to get the world skip quite... Oh no, he's doing it now. Okay. So Cell had to reset there just because the way the setups were working, it was a little bit weird. He did not quite get on top of his turret in time. That phase where you can jump through the turret there in the first like half second when it's created is very important for things like that. Otherwise, again, you just can't jump around it. It's too tight of a corner. St. Joe, meanwhile, is in the process of making sure crystals are destroyed, and then let's see if he can get this skip going as well. Moving past all of this, so we can just jump right over. So Half Beastie is now on the spider boss. Spider, crab, crustacean thing. And earlier, when Pika Pals and Half Beastie were on pace for this one, they managed to get through here at about 8 minutes and 50 seconds. But it looks like Half Beastie is on much faster pace right at the moment. Ludris is currently set up and is trying to do the world 1-3. No, this isn't 1-3. This is 1-2. This is the 1-2 skip. Half Beastie playing basketball right at the moment. And going through World 1-3 at this point in time. Meanwhile, St. Joe is on his way to Boss 3, the boss of World 3, and Cell looks like is set up. This is World 3-1. St. Joe is going to show us, we got to see Pika Pals do it a little bit earlier, but the best way to try to, as well, go through here, of course, using these turrets, you got to make efficient use to make sure you also get on top here. And it looks like he's got that good rhythm going right at the moment. St. Joe used that warrior ability, the Whirlwind, which is not something that we've seen other runners end up doing. In fact, neither Half Beastie or Pika we've seen use either of those up to this point in time. Oh no, and St. Joe I think is set up where he's just a little bit shy of this particular crystal, so now he's got to... Okay. He's found his way around. And St. Joe there, unfortunately, trying to move around a little bit, but fell down. These are not easy pillars to climb, per se. There's certainly lots of stuff coming at you all the time. Ludra is still having some trouble getting through this skip. He's not quite able to get up on top of the invisible ceiling here. Yeah, just not quite. And looks like he's going to be resetting. So another reset for Ludris. Cell, meanwhile, looks like he's setting up for this world 3-2 skip. St. Joe going through and is set up. He's got to be a little bit careful because, yeah, he's really low on health right at the moment. Half Beastie on the water escape portion of World 1-3. Taking as many dashes and shortcuts as he can. Ludris, meanwhile, is starting over. Looks like he's starting with the Mage Teleport, which is really interesting from Ludris. Most people obviously start with the Warrior Dash, but the Mage Teleport can certainly get you around some different places. And here's a weapon that we have not yet seen before as St. Joe finishes up World 3-4 and is on his way to the final boss. The Mage Magic Missile is interesting in that it does auto-target things, but it's not always targeting the things that you want it to. So it's generally considered, at least by folks that I've talked to, as inferior to the Gatling gun, just because it can hit anything, and you don't have as much control over it as you'd like. Meanwhile, Half Beastie turning in a decent time there, 14:50 through World 1-3. St. Joe is going to get his hamster ball on. Half Beastie is fighting the warrior boss at this point in time. Again, he'll be chugging battery acid here directly, which, again, we don't recommend against. St. Joe making pretty good time on this hamster ball up to this point in time. Lots of small little things that can slow you down, and of course lots of treasure chests with gold coins, but we don't need gold coins anymore. We already have everything we need. Alright, so Ludris is... Oh, so that's an interesting use for the teleport, which I really appreciate from Ludris. Hey, we're just going to skip that whole section. Alright, so Half Beastie's now on the battery acid section of the warrior boss. Selkuth is in World 3-3 on the final boss. In the meantime, playing it safe, making sure to destroy all of the crystals around here. And of course, that boss just melted on Half Beastie's side. So he's getting a few coins and is really making pretty good time. Ludris, meanwhile, using again, he's trying a different tack. He's like, hey, if we're gonna do this, Let's do it the mage way. Meanwhile, St. Joe is on the final boss and is doing it very cleanly up to this point in time. And Cell still finishing up. Ludris, I like this tack from Ludris. And okay, let's do something else. So World 1-1 is over. Half Beastie, meanwhile, on World 2-1. Not a lot of skips again in World 2-1. In fact, as a general rule, World 2 is, even with the World 2-2 skip, World 2-3 is by far the longest thing that you will ever experience in this game, in a speedrun perspective. St. Joe took a death there, unfortunately, so he had some resets there. So, continuing to work on this boss. Meanwhile, Half Beastie is about to start his minecart version. Cell's getting a little bit low on health. I'm getting a little worried for him. It looks like he has just finished up that fight. So he is on to boss, the boss of World 3, Wizard Boss. And Joe is just now finishing up. Looks like he is done. Good job, St. Joe. And as he turns in a time of 1:08:28. Again, not quite good enough for, we haven't broken the record quite yet, but that would be good enough. You know, we have Pika Pals who turned into 56:36 earlier, but that would be good enough with that time submitted for a second place currently on the speedrun.com leaderboard. It would have been third place if Pika Pals turns his in. So we have a current second place and third place record time, along with Half Beastie, who is, we're anticipating turning in a pretty good record here for himself as well once he can get through. Ludris also looks like he is taking... he's using more mage strats than warrior strats, so he is teleporting instead of using all sorts of warrior dashes, which is what many of the other runners have been doing. So we are back with Pika Pals now, who has started a fresh run as well. So Pika Pals is currently on World 1-3 on the enemy gauntlet phase at this point in time. Just melting these bosses with turrets and the warrior hammer right now, and looks like even the Gatling gun. Meanwhile, Half Beastie is doing the World 2-2 skip, and Ludris is again on this section. Oh, and he gets it. So he is now on a whole new part. Yeah, Pika Pals is now resetting, and he is in optimization mode as well. And Half Beastie, meanwhile, rolling through very, very quickly. A great time here at the end of World 2-1, 24:07. Oh, that's 2-2. That's not 2-1, that's 2-2. All right, Pika Pals is starting over with the fresh one as well. Cell, meanwhile, is on World 3-3 as he gets several of the other skips. Half Beastie in World 2-3, what is the longest level in the game for speedrunners because there's nothing we can skip. But it involves our generous coffee break, though. So, refills if you got them. Pals, collecting money to start off with this particular fresh run. I didn't notice that to start, but I know I've watched Half Beastie a ton. Half Beastie generally has been skipping those because he doesn't necessarily need the money, but from an efficiency perspective, those are pretty decent money locations early on in the game, so... Alright, so Cell is currently in the process of getting this particular skip in, jumping over the wall. Meanwhile, Ludris is on the Crab Boss, and Half Beastie still finishing up his coffee break. Yeah, Cell finishes up and is through. Pika Pals is on World... I think this is still World 1. And this is what marathons are about, everyone. Everyone's in a different spot. Some folks have been happy and just given us straight runs up to this point in time. We've had 2 finishes up to this point in time. Both Pika Pals and St. Joe have turned in times which are good enough to get them on the Speedruns leaderboard. That being said, the goal is number 1. We want that number 1 spot. The current world record for TriFox and the ultimate goal that we're shooting for, 53 minutes and 10 seconds. That is currently held by Half Beastie, our performer here in the bottom right-hand corner. So we've been kind of paying attention to him. I admit, we're paying attention to him a little bit more than the other runners. Part of that is just because, hey, he's the current world record holder, so there's expectations that come with that. But all of our runners today have been putting on one heck of a show, showing us different things. Looks like Pika Pal's reset again. He wants something perfect, I tell you. Of course, the Speed Gaming Network doesn't do just TriFox. We have all sorts of different speed runs that are going on constantly. Speed Gaming, we're on Speed Gaming Prime right now, but we have Speed Gaming and Speed Gaming 2 through 6 with programming on it all the time, ranging from Link to the Past randomizer, which is where I got my start, to all different sorts of randomizers. We have Final Fantasy races going on, but if you like the speedrunning community, there is no better place than following us at Speed Gaming here on Speed Gaming Prime and Speed Gaming 2 through 6 for all of your speed runs. So Half Beastie currently on, again, this is the longest stage in this particular speed run, World 2-3, just because it's an elevator with lots of little mini gauntlets and nothing we can do to make it faster. Nothing whatsoever. So Pika, meanwhile, is getting ready to start his World 2-1. Cell, meanwhile, is on this boss in World 3-4. This boss has given these runners a little bit of trouble here, but that's okay. And the real trick, and I think Cell is certainly aware of this, but when you're up there destroying the ice crystals, you cannot stand in the ice beam. Because that ice beam does quite a bit of damage to you. BC seems to have turned on another level. He is just zooming right now. I know he and Pika were pretty tight earlier in the race. However, until we got to World 3-3 when Half Beastie attempted a very difficult skip and opted to unfortunately reset out of that. So Pika has turned in a time, and it looks like Pika is resetting another time. I don't blame him. I mean, this is, again, we have about another hour and a half of the run to turn in your best time. But at the world record of 53 minutes, we're very quickly approaching the time where if you have not started your final run, you need to. So we'll keep that in mind. So Half Beastie continues to work. Ludris is still using his magician. Oh no, he's using the warrior dash now. So Cell, meanwhile, is set up on. He's finishing up this final boss in 3-4. And Half BC, this is a bit of a gauntlet stage. Again, we've talked about World 2-3 quite a bit, but it's a non-stop gauntlet, and nothing is skippable. So there's lots of enemies that will try to kill you. There's nothing particularly dangerous when you're on this middle elevator. It's usually pretty controllable, as many runners have been able to show us up to this point in time. But Half Beastie is through the worst of it at 32:45. I think he's on pretty quick pace right now. Now, this boss isn't particularly easy either. Again, we mentioned earlier that each of the bosses apparently are mirroring different trees that you get your skills in. We had the warrior boss. This is the engineer boss, which involved flipping switches to be able to do any damage, but we do have to make sure to clear out, of course, the enemies. So flipping those switches will do progressive damage to the boss. We do have to flip them a few times, but then, of course, there's survival gauntlets in the meantime. And Half Beastie is doing pretty well in terms of making sure that things are being destroyed quickly. Pika Pals has restarted his run as well. So Ludris now on the gauntlet portion of World 1-3. Meanwhile, Salkuth finally passed that boss and is on the hamster ball stage. So Half Beastie progressively working us through the cutscene boss, which of course is the bane of everyone's existence. Ludris still set up, still trying to get through this gauntlet boss. It feels like with the mage strats that he's using, just doesn't put out quite the damage that other runners have been able to put through. So Pika is starting now. Meanwhile, Cell is on his hamster wheel. Hamster ball, not hamster wheel. That's silly. Alright, Ludris looks like he's changing his loadout. Looks to be more engineer focused than mage focused now. Which makes sense. We're set up reasonably well as I think what is expected. And Half Beastie, oh my, that is 3601 for the final boss. That is quite good. So just to, all right, I have some other times written down from World 3, but looks like we are going to be doing the teleport trick. World 3, it goes generally much faster than World 2. Half Beastie is on, I think, a record-setting pace right now, based on my limited knowledge of the game, and also knowing that this world is designed to go pretty quickly. Half Beastie struggling a little bit with that teleport, unfortunately. Okay, he gets it. That took probably a little bit longer than he would have liked, but otherwise, he is through this 3-1 skip relatively quickly. Ludris, meanwhile, on the warrior boss, Pika Pal's just starting his world, 1-2, and Cell is on the final boss here. He did take a death at the previous boss as well. Okay. Sleepy Angel, I appreciate you calling these sorts of things out because I'm trying to keep track of 4 screens here, so. Out comes the gauntlet at the end of World 3-1, which again has had the deaths of many runners in it throughout the history of this speed run. We've mentioned before, it's lots of damage going out, lots of area of effects, and not a lot of health containers to pick up that are available. So it can be difficult getting through this particular section. Cell, meanwhile, just finished up. Looks like he is through the final cutscene of the boss. So Cell Mind is going to be the 3rd runner on stream to turn in a time, which is going to be fantastic. We'll get his official time here. (1:26:25), and Cellcouth Mind does have the 3rd place currently on the speedrun leaderboard with the time of 1:45:31. So he definitely blew his previous submitted time out of the water with this particular one. So GG's to Cell. Ludris, meanwhile, is starting his World 2-1, while Half Beastie is just finishing up World 2-1. So that is... so earlier, let me see, at 40:21 for World 3-1, that is... or for World 3-1, that's actually quite a bit faster by almost a minute than we had previously seen earlier today. So even though, he may have had a couple deaths, he's still on great pace right now for Half Beastie. Meanwhile, Pika Pals set up for our wonderful crustacean boss. Cell looks like he continues to, or he is restarting as well. We're going to pull back. Looks like St. Joe has also recently restarted. So we're going to pull him in. Rotating through all the community members who are taking place. I think there's 5 total. Pika Pals, Ludris, St. Joe, Half Beastie, and Cellcouth Mind. So all sorts of runners absolutely in this marathon session of Chase for the Record. We are all chasing Half Beastie's submitted time of 53 minutes and 8 seconds. That is the current leader on the Speedruns leaderboard. We did have Pika Pals earlier complete with a 56:36. So that is the best submitted time for today. There are prizes, cash money prizes for the top 2 time submitters for the day, and $100 for the winner and $50 for second place. Those are currently held by Pika Pals and St. Joe with his 56:36 time and 1:08:25. So Half Beastie did reset out of his first earlier run. He got until he was at World, he is currently on World 3-2. He got to about where he's at now. He got to World 3-3 and was doing a very difficult skull skip. very early on in the run and could not complete it and opted to reset and start over from there. So all eyes are on Half Beastie as he approaches where he had his last reset. Meanwhile, Ludris is on 2-1 kart race, and it looks like St. Joe is on his warrior boss area, while Pika Pals is on World 1-3. I tell you what, I think the next great skip is going to come down to whenever any one of our runners can figure out skipping this particular portion in World 2-1 with the minecart. If there's any way to get past it to make it faster, I think that's the next great skip. All right, Half Beastie. Here is where he had previously reset, doing this particular very difficult skull skip. And I think he's done it. That was a very, very difficult setup that caused him to reset previously. So just completing that by itself was fantastic. That is great news for Half Beastie and this particular run. Getting that and doing it first try more than anything. So now the pressure is on with that skull skip completed. Now completing World 3-3 and having as close to as a flawless run from here on out we're at 45 minutes right now. Remember, world record is 53 minutes, so we still have final boss of this world and this boss. So if you're fans of speedrunning, you're rooting for Half Beastie right now. Meanwhile, Ludris is setting up the skip in 2-1, I believe. This is 2-1. Pika Pals is on 1-3, and St. Joe is looks like he's just starting 2-1 as well. So again, World 2 is the most long and difficult, and from a speedrunner perspective, I would say it's not boring, but there's fewer skips, there's fewer things to do. It's just about good, solid gameplay at that point in time. All right, and Half Beastie gets over at 47 minutes in 3-3, so he's still on a quite good pace right now. I don't know if he's on world record pace based on where we were at prior, but still doing quite well. He is about a minute and a half of Pika Pal's run earlier, we'll put it that way, which that run was about 3.5 minutes off the world record, so probably about 2.5 minutes off the world record pace. Although if he can make some gamer plays, I know there's still some room in that. And so far, so good on this particular boss. Meanwhile, Ludris comes to World 2-3. Coffee break time for Ludris. St. Joe is finishing up his 2-1, and Pika Pals is onto the current run. We are about an hour 15 or so from our 3-hour marathon. So here's the real trick that's going to happen. And Half Beastie is through. Great job there. Pretty soon, if anyone's going to be submitting a run, they're going to have to at least start that run here in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. Maybe 20 minutes, because we have a 53-minute world record. So just worth noting and keeping in mind for everyone out there. These runners know that deadline is coming up. So if you don't feel like you're on world record pace within this particular stream, certainly you're going to want to start here in the next 20 minutes or so. So Half Beastie is, I think, is going to be able to finish this particular run just to get something submitted before we go to the next run. But for the rest of these other runners who are not close to finishing, it's getting close to decision time. Decide if you're on a good record pace that you're happy with, and if not, you're gonna have to. It's best to reset now so you can get started soon. So Half Beastie is in hamster ball phase. St. Joe looks like he's starting over here, and I think this is the 2-1 skip. Yeah, this is 2-1 skip. And the real trick with this hamster ball stage is try not to lose a whole lot of momentum, because you get these dashes, but it's real easy to get hung up on lots of little things here and there. Half Beastie continues to make quick work of the hamster ball area. Ludris, meanwhile, is taking his elevator down. Pika Pals is collecting quite a few coins from the end of that warrior boss there, so he's looking to make some purchases here directly. Meanwhile, St. Joe is over the skip and is on to this mini gauntlet here. Alright, so Half Beastie enters the boss at about 52 minutes. Remember, the world record is 53:08. I don't think it's possible to beat this boss in a minute, so not going to necessarily get the world record, but still has a chance for the best time for today. What's the time to beat? Great question, Stepnioli. 53 minutes and 8 seconds. 53:08 and in 290 milliseconds if that's your thing, but if it gets that close. So that is the current world record for this game. Pika Pals did submit a time earlier today on this restream of 56 minutes and 36 seconds. Remember, there is a first place prize of 100 US American dollars for submitting the top time for the day. And that's currently held by Pika Pals at 56:36. Yes, they can restart. This is a chase for the record. So this is a 3-hour marathon. Several runners have reset several times. We have, in fact, just about an hour left of this race. So you make a good point. You know, if runners want to really chase for that record and want to turn in that world record time, and they don't feel they're currently on the pace, now's the time to reset. Half Beastie is getting very, very close here. All right, I got to imagine this is just Half Beastie. This is going to be him turning in a very, very nice time. $54.24, which is good enough for first place for today. It does not quite beat the world record. So 54.24. We have to find effectively like a minute and 16 seconds to shave off of that for the actual world record, currently held by Half Beastie. So there is about an hour left. So I got to imagine we'll see if Half Beastie is going to give it another roll. Otherwise, for the rest of these runners, if they're not on their current record pace, I would advise them to restart because the marathon is going to be over here soon, or in an hour. Meanwhile, Pika Pals is on World 2-1, the minecart area, which is a bit not much we can do here. Ludris is on World 2-3, which is the single longest stage in the entire game from a speedrunning perspective, because it's long and there's just nothing for us to skip. St. Joe is also on that is much earlier. You can see Ludris is on at about 43 minutes and St. Joe's at 31, but they're on the same level. It's just that long. It really is. It's kind of painful. All right. And as we continue to get everything going, Pika Pals is setting up on his World 2-1 skip. Pika Pals is the only person so far today that has really come close to challenging that world record outside of Half Beastie himself. Sitting there at second place for the day, 56.36, over Half Beastie's 54.24. And of course, Ludris is currently setting himself up for monster spawns as they do. Meanwhile, St. Joe is setting himself up as well. Pika Pals gets through World 2-1 very quickly. That is, it's a time of 24:37. It's about 3 minutes off of the last pace that we just saw Half Beastie done. So it doesn't look like he'd be challenging for the record right now on the current pace he's on. And looks like Half Beastie's going to give it one more shot. Which, hey, well, I mean, you got the record and you got the current high for today, but you can always get a little bit faster. All right, Pika Pals is currently on his coffee break, so clearing everything out, and we'll be setting things up again. Make sure everyone's hydrated. This is a marathon. We gotta make sure to control your water intake, folks. The Half Beastie is off to the races again. We'll see. I mean, he had a couple stumbles there, which kept him from the world record, but he was. I mean, the main bugaboo really was that skull skip, and he nailed it for that particular run. So here we go. St. Joe, meanwhile, on one of the mini boss fights. Pika Pals also on this long in 2-3. Ludris is currently on the boss and the engineer boss in World 2. So. That is Ludris doing well? Well, I tell you what, he's been doing pretty well. I haven't seen him submit a time yet. Let me double check our boards to see if he completed one, because I know we switched over. No, Ludris has not yet submitted a time for today yet. He did a couple resets. I know he started off this particular run in interesting fashion. While most runners end up starting out with the Warrior Dash, he opted instead to start for the Mage Teleport, which is, I think, slightly slower, but I think you have a little bit more control over it. So it's not what I would call optimal, but it's working for him. He's been doing really well. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steph. It is now sub-hour. We have been going for about 2 hours now. It is a 3-hour marathon. So we are now at the point where, the record is 53 minutes. So you're probably, if you're going to have a run to break the world record, you should probably start now if you haven't already. And there are some runners who would not think that they could get world record pace, and they just want to get like a personal best, and that's perfectly fine as well. This is, we're about speed running. We're not about speed recording. You have to be fast before you can set a record. So we want to encourage everyone to speed run, not just if you're only going to set a record. So. We're happy to promote speedrunning in all its forms. But yeah, winning's still nice too. Let's not get it twisted. Absolutely. And here goes Half Beastie. Looks like he's going to be doing some purchasing. St. Joe is on the engineer boss as well. Looks like Ludris is now set up on World 3. And is doing quite well right at the moment with that Mage Teleport. There is a great skip here. If he can get it. If he can nail it. Alright, half beastie. Now set up. There we go. He is... This skip in World 1-2 is absolutely crucial to get that quickly. Pika Pals, meanwhile, at 31 minutes, is on this gauntlet in World 2-3. Seems like just about everyone has recently been in World 2-3. That's how long it is. It is a sizable percent of the speedrun is just World 2-3. There we go, Ludris got up there. Big Joe is picking up some extra coins, meanwhile, after beating the boss in World 2 at about 40-35. So, St. Joe, remember, did turn in a time of 1:08.25 earlier today. So he's got one run submitted up to this point in time. Oh, and Ludris. Oh, Ludris had to reset out of his skip. Well, Steph, that's a fantastic question. You know, this has been about up to this point in time. This has been a TriFox weekly run, and this has been kind of the culmination of what I would say, has been, since about November, we've been doing weekly runs. If there's demand from the community, it's entirely possible. I'm not in charge of speed gaming scheduling. They don't pay me they just pay me for my pretty voice is all that comes out. So if people want to see more TriFox, we'll put it that way. If people want to see TriFox, we're happy to give it to them. So finishing that at about 8:20. That's so far so good, decent pace so far for Half Beastie, right at the moment. So Ludris is still trying to get this skip here in 3-1. St. Joe looks like he is currently on 3-1 at the very end. Meanwhile, Pika Pals is on Boss 2-4, Engineer Boss. Certainly, what I would call one of the more annoying bosses, just because there's so much going on that you have to keep track of, and keeping track of yourself. Boss 1, as you can imagine, Boss 1 is one of the easier ones. Boss 3, when you do the setup right, is generally pretty easy, but also there's a lot of time in between when you can actually damage. So, so far, let's see, St. Joe. St. Joe doing reasonably well. Again, this gauntlet at the end of World 3 can be challenging. Lots of damage that goes out, and it can, without a whole lot of health pickups. So, gotta be a little bit careful here. All right, so Half Beastie is now on World 1-3 in the underground portions. Kind of in the split level. Meanwhile, Ludris is set up. Looks like he's trying to get around. Yep, and here he is at the final boss that St. Joe just recently started. This, not boss, gauntlet. Meanwhile, Pika Pals completes and is through at about 36 minutes for that boss, which is pretty close to some times that we had earlier today. So Pika, this is going to be his... Pika's committed. This is his last run as well. Half Beastie's in, and I think this is going to be both for Ludris and St. Joe as well. You know what? I appreciate that that suggestion, Steph. It's so just to let you know, it's not officially like right at 7 o'clock Eastern time or wherever you happen to be located. We started a few minutes late, so I mean just like 3 or 4, so it's not going to be exact. I don't know if we have an exact timer, but we will. You know, I'm working with our producers kind of on the back end as well, so we'll let you know how close it's getting. Yeah, think of it like soccer. We're 3 hours plus or minus extra time, depending on a number of factors. Or football for the rest of the world. I don't want to be too American-centric here. All right, so Pika Pals is getting ready. He completed the skip, so is starting the gauntlet, the 3-1 gauntlet right away. Ludris is finishing up that gauntlet. Meanwhile, St. Joe is, got the blind jump on 3-2. That's the hardest part, or one of the harder skips there that St. Joe just did. So well done there. Half Beastie, meanwhile, is on 3-1. And is just going to be dashing through everyone. And hey, look, an Indiana Jones section. Like, we're filling the room up with water. Alright, so Half Beastie's got to be a little bit careful here. I know speedrunners like to be on the edge. Okay, got the health refill. So Ludris is setting up this 3-2 skip right now, I think. Yep, he is certainly setting up the 3-2 skip. Although doing it with mage strats, which is, oh, that's too bad. Normally we see folks doing it with the warrior dash, so he's doing it with the mage teleport, which is not something that we see a lot of the other runners doing. So Ludris is certainly going his own way right at the moment. So Ludris is, yeah, this is not the traditional 3-2 skip that, although he's setting something up right now. All right, so he's set up reasonably well. Pretty soon he's going to have the blind jump coming up, so he's got to be ready for that. Meanwhile, Pika Pals is on to World 3-1. St. Joe is on 3-3, which is the one that we've completely destroyed. We'll see if St. Joe is going to also do Skull Skip, or if he's going to do the Skulls and save a little bit of time. No Skull Skip for him. He says that's not worth it. Worth noting, those patches of ice on the ground slow you down, so any sort of movement, including that warrior spin that he has, will slow you down if you try to walk over it. Alright, Pika Pals looks like he is setting up for the blind setup as well. Looks like he got it, so is now well on his way to completing 3-2. Meanwhile, St. Joe does get through and is on his way. Half Beastie, meanwhile, fighting Warrior Boss in 1-4. Alright, Ludris is back on path for this blind jump that we just saw Pika Pals complete a little bit ago. Pika tends to make things look very easy, so Ludris is, this is a very difficult blind jump that he has to end up doing here. And that's what happens when you miss it. Unfortunately, you have to go all the way back. So Half Beastie is through at 8-13. Or 18-13. Which, unfortunately, is not quite record pace. But so Half Beastie will have to make up some time at some point. He's a little bit slower than he was even earlier today. Oh, he's resetting. Oh my. Okay. So we're at 40 minutes left. Okay, we'll have to check with the judges on this one. Meanwhile, Ludris does get through. He is now on that boss that Pika Pal's just finished and is through. If we were about 10 minutes, yeah, we should be fine. So Half Beast, he wanted to get another reset in just right out the gate. Wasn't quite feeling that start. Meanwhile, St. Joe's working his way through World 3-3. Pika Pals, again, does not do Skull Skip. Opts to just go ahead and do the Skull area. All right, so we're switching over to Cell, who is in the middle of his run. He is on World, this is 2-3. Of course, the fantastic long elevator ride. Pika Pals is trying to get himself set up to pass over, and yep, finally gets that crystal down. St. Joe now on Wizard Boss, so Boss 3-4. And of course, setting up about Pika Pals, just like St. Joe just did, skipping over this very end. World 3-3 ends up being the world that we can skip just about all of in one way, shape, or form. You can get through it in about 3 minutes if you know all the proper skips. Which, when you compare it to World 2-3, with no skips, that means quite a bit of time skipped, and that amplifies how much time we're spending in World 2-3 right at the moment. Alright, so Pika on this boss, the same one that Joe is on. Take it back, the one that Joe just finished. So Joe at about 57 minutes and 30 seconds is going to be moving on to his hamster ball. Meanwhile, Pika took an unfortunate death there. Pika jumping around, placing the flame turret and saying, I gotta go. Because the flame turrets do damage to these things. Oh! Just slightly overshot that last crystal. And Pika Pals will be through this fight now as St. Joe is on his hamster ball. Selkuth, meanwhile, is on this horrible World 2-3, where there's no way around, and Ludris is on World 832 just before, yeah, kind of a mini boss here. Alright, so St. Joe finishing up his hamster ball. Pika Pals getting close. Beastie's done? Okay. I mean, we were getting close to time where you could not start a run within it anyway, which makes sense. He has so far turned in the top time. Pika Pals, though, is within striking distance. St. Joe has a time of 1 hour and 12 seconds. Both top 2 times submitted today are under 1 hour, though. So St. Joe might beat his PB. Pika Pals, though, is at 32:03. The top time for today, set by Half Beastie, is 54:24. So Pika Pals is looking, if he cannot beat 53:08, and I doubt he's going to beat 53:08 because we've still got a whole boss, but he still has a shot at 54:24. And that would beat Half Beastie's time and take first place for the day. If not, then you know, he still has 56:36, so he might just be improving upon his time as well. And he is certainly moving his way quite well through these platforms here. Alright, so Pika Pals is on the final boss, as is St. Joe. Selkuth Mine, meanwhile, is finishing up this horrible stage. Oh, St. Joe just finished the boss, so let's see. He is definitely going to improve upon his time. And St. Joe's final time of 1:02:45 improves by almost 6 minutes his previous time for the day. It's still good enough for third place overall and third place today in the standings. However, so great job, St. Joe, turning in that fantastic PB. Pika Pal setting down some more turrets to take care of enemies as they're going to be coming in. He's trying. That thing is just running away from him right now. Oh, he got it and was knocked off the cliff. Oh, that's frustrating for Pika Pals. Yes, everyone's been putting on one heck of a show. It is not easy to be in a speedrun mindset for 3 straight hours, especially when you have kind of a short game like this. So just kudos to all 5 of the runners that we've been cycling on here through at Speed Gaming. Here, yeah, they've all been doing just a fantastic job, really putting on a clinic and showing us, you know, how quick this game can really be done. Pika Pals, unfortunately, is not going to beat his other submitted time for today. He's going to submit at, looks like, 56:54. Yeah, and he had earlier today a 56:36. So, still a fantastic job, Pika, and that's still good enough for second place. He's turned in 2 of the top 3 times today. Alright, here's the world that Ludris actually just struggled with a second ago. Let's see if he can make it. There we go. And this is where you can kind of clip a turret into this wall so that it will shoot. Yeah, it's got to be very careful. There we go. Okay, so I just got some clarification from our producers in the back end. So we're actually going until for a little bit longer than we thought. They will have a chance to reset until about 7:05 p.m. So we're going for an extra hour longer than I'd originally thought. So they are still resetting and still have a chance for another 25 minutes or so. So whatever run that they're on at about the 3-hour mark, they are allowed to finish that run that they are currently on. So if that's why we're seeing a lot of resets right now, because if they're not on what they feel is their world record pace now, when they start that particular run, that's when it'll be kind of the end of the mark there. That message was sent and I was not looking at it, so that's on me, everyone. I apologize for the confusion. So there will be we're going for about another hour and 20 minutes. If any run has not started by about 7:05 Eastern time, that's when the cutoff really happens. So whatever run they are currently on, they will be able to finish, and we'll be here for it. Yes, I believe the runners do know this already. It was communicated to them ahead of time, but I was just told, hey, show up and start talking about it. So that's what I did. So. Oh, we see Ludris here. This is interesting. So Ludris is now on World 3-3. He is doing, or attempting to do, the skull skip, which was the same skip that gave Half Beastie quite a bit of issues earlier. But he's making that attempt right now. See both Pika and Half Beastie recently doing resets. Ludris is still trying to get this skull skip. So you see Pika is set up really, really well with this particular... We've seen some runners struggle with this particular area just because the enemies end up knocking you out of place. Pika not struggling at all. Meanwhile, Half Beastie is getting set up for his first weapon. And Cell gets through as well. He will have his blind jump here in World 3-2 here directly. Ludris still rocking this skull skip. You know what? I appreciate it. I really do. Alright, sells through the blind jump there, which is fantastic. Half BC looks like he did another reset here. Pika Pals, meanwhile, is happy to get through. Is on World 1-2 for this skip right here. I don't know if Pika has that quite placed properly. There he goes. All right. Turrets. I tell you, the turrets are the single most important thing in the speedrunner's arsenal. Do damage, act as an extra platform that you can place. That was just the first person to discover that the turrets, you know, could be used as just placeable platforms. Was a bit of a genius, because it's been all uphill from there. Ludris looks like he might almost be getting over. I say, and yeah. I'm sorry, Ludris, I jinxed you. Meanwhile, Pika Pal's about to start his boss here, the crustacean boss, mini boss. Half Beastie. Showing how easy it is to kick a log over and just make that entire section look easy. Oh, absolutely, Leafy. And he looks like he's setting it up reasonably well, but and then it's mistiming a few things. This is the thing about speedrunning that I think a lot is behind the scenes for a lot of folks. There's a lot of practice, and there's a lot of failure. But you can't have success without some failure, right? So Ludris is just doing right now what Half Beastie and Pika Pals have done off screen probably hundreds of times as well. So absolutely kudos to Ludris right at the moment. In the meantime, Pika Pal's playing a little bit of basketball here. Doing a very good job. And is set up in World 1-3. And Half Beastie nails that 2-1 skip first try. Which, I mean, nailing those things first try, that's the key, right? So here goes Half Beastie on the Crab Gauntlet, and Pika Pals is in 1-3, playing some more basketball. Cell, meanwhile, is still working his way through. I think he's... Yeah, once we get these 2 crystals down, I think he'll be able to skip the rest. Oh yeah, Leafy Angel. I mean, and that's, like I said, that's some of the things that I would say a lot of, you know, if you tune into individual streams, you might see a lot of it, but there's a lot of stuff that happens off stream in terms of practice for any sort of speedrun, not just TriFox, but any speedrun that happens on the entire Speed Gaming Network and elsewhere. It's practice. To get good at something, you have to practice, and you have to fail a lot. You have to be bad at something before you can get good at something. And not everyone can get past that be bad at it phase. So absolutely kudos to anyone who has that kind of patience. I know Ludris is trying right now, and when you're having people talk about what you're doing, it can be nerve-wracking. So again, kudos to him right now. We're just continuing to practice because Skull Skip does save time. You know, we've seen it save you know, a handful of seconds on Half Beastie's side. Meanwhile, Cell is on boss, the wizard boss, in 3-4. I see you, Ludris. Gee, hey, congratulations on keeping trying that. Absolutely. Alright. Meanwhile, Pika Pal's on his wonderful climb, and he's been doing very well in this particular climb throughout the day. Oh, except for right there. It's like as soon as I pay attention to a runner, I immediately jinx them. Oh no, Cell took a death there. He had set everything up pretty well. So he's in final phase of this wizard boss. With all 4 crystals up in the corners. By the way, folks, this isn't the intended strat. I don't want anyone to think like it is intended for you to wall climb up here to destroy a whole bunch of crystals. This is absolutely the speedrunner strat. You can do it the long way and go through the survival modes if you really want to. Alright, and with that, Cell is through at 104.41, so he just has a hamster ball run and then a boss to finish. Cell's turned in time earlier is 1:26.25, and I tell you, with 104 right now, Cell is on a PB pace for himself as well right now. So we'll be paying attention to Cell in that final time that you turn in. I know both Pika and Half Beastie are on some pretty good paces right at the moment, but I don't want to discount the PB that Cell Toothmind is working on right now, as well as the work that Ludris is also doing on stream for this skull skip. Alright, so Cell is set up right now. Meanwhile, Pika Pals and Half Beastie are working their way through World... Well, I'm sorry, Half Beastie's in World 1-3. Pika is now in World 1-4, where he's fighting the Warrior boss. And I think everyone was just given kind of the warning of, hey, it is 6:57. If you don't feel, if you're on record pace right now, you will be allowed to finish out your run here directly. So we are getting close to the end. So Pika is going to go ahead and reset. I think he was a little bit behind his earlier pace anyway. Ludris gets it. Ludris got the skull skip. Woo, Ludris! Kudos, dude. And that particular skip, the only other person who's done it on stream, at least today, has been Half Beastie, the current world record holder. And it is a very, very difficult skip. It's difficult to the point where most other runners do not, even attempting it is a time waste, because if you do not nail it first time, it ends up being a time loss, and it only saves, you know, not even 10 seconds or so. But if you're going to be on world record pace, eventually that's going to have to be done for everyone. So it's going to have to be automatic, so it's worth doing it. So Ludris does reset because he also wants to have that. Hey, we gotta be on world record pace here. It's coming up to 7 o'clock Eastern, so the run that the runners are currently on will be allowed. They will be allowed to finish. And 15:10 for the end of World 1-3 is slightly slower than the pace we saw Half Beastie on earlier. I wonder if he'll be resetting here soon as well. Cell, meanwhile, is on the final boss right now, certainly outpacing his previous PB. Little bit concerning. He's at 1 hit until damage, but he does get the phase transition, so it's a bit of a save. All right, and so far so good. Cell is doing reasonably well with all the damage that he's pumping out. It's a little bit difficult right now just because everything's on fire. This is really an interesting and fun boss fight because you have to destroy effectively the 4 arms that are constantly spinning. So it's really difficult. Only 1 arm remaining. And unfortunately it takes a death, so that's going to reset everything. Alright, so Pika Pals now gets through at 4:27 on that first area. Half Beastie at 17:41. It's about 10 seconds off his pace earlier. So, but certainly not anything to reset over. So I guess he's going to keep on going. If he can eliminate the mistakes from earlier, he will be on pace. And Cell Kuthmind defeats the boss, transitions into a screen at 1:12:31. That is just about a 14-minute improvement for Cell Kuthmind over his time submitted earlier. GG's. I just want to point out, Cell Kuthmind started out today number 3 on the speed gaming leaderboards with a submitted time of 1 hour, 45 minutes, and 31 seconds. And he is currently sitting, I'm assuming this is a personal best, of 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 31 seconds. That is a GG's to Cell Kuthmind. Meanwhile, turning it over here to St. Joe, who looks like he is also trying to get one last run in. So he is on the warrior boss. All right, so Pika restarting, and he is now on Crab Gauntlet. Half Beastie is about to start his Donkey Kong Country minecart race. Is that a reference that people still get, or am I old? Donkey Kong Country minecart race? If not, I mean, if you don't get it, just let me know. And I'll go to Urban Dictionary and look up some, more slang for the crowds. Yo. Meanwhile, St. Joe is making some purchases right now. Looks like he is set up. Just finished the boss, so he is on his way over to World 2-1. Ludris, meanwhile, is trying to set up for this 2-1 skip. Pika Pal's finishing up, about to fight the crab boss, and Half Beastie on his minecart race. And Pika Pals absolutely obliterates the crab. And we are on our way at that point in time. Pika Pals is on pretty good pace right now at that 850 mark, while Half Beastie finishes up at about 22 minutes, finishing up World 2-2, or finishing up 2-1. Yep, still about 10 seconds behind his original pace. But again, I think all of that time is saved a little bit later. So we are at the 7:05 mark Eastern Time. This is the point of no return. This is okay. We are done with resets, I believe, and whatever run the runners are on presently, this is it. This is your last chance run. All right, so quick update. Pika, of course, working through start of 1-3. Half Beastie got his skip on 2-1 and is slowly working his way. Oh, looks like took a death there. What's Half Beastie gonna do? Okay, I think we got one last reset, and I think we're fine with that. This'll be it though. I'll double check with our producers to see where we're at, but I think we're good with one more reset. Meanwhile, Ludris is on Crab Gauntlet, about to finish up. Pika Pal's working his way through 1-3. St. Joe is on that 2-1 Donkey Kong kart race. Okay. In the meantime, okay, we have Pika Pals, Ludris, and St. Joe now on stream. Pika, of course, in the underground portion. Ludris on Crab Gauntlet on the Crab Boss. St. Joe setting up the 2-1 skip. Worth noting, there are 2 different times to beat. We still have the world record, 53 minutes and 8 seconds, which is currently held by Half Beastie, and he has not relinquished that. He did turn in a time today of 54:24, though, and that is good enough for first place and a $100 grand prize so far. Pika Pals is currently in control of the second place time for today, a 56:36. The goal is to beat the world record, but at minimum, you want a shot at that first place prize of $100. So shoot for 54:24 if you can't make the 53:08. All right. We have, and St. Joe is through the gauntlet in 2-1. Ludris, meanwhile, working his way through 1-3. Same as Pika Pals, although Pika Pals is a little bit deeper into the World 1-3, is on the escape portion and is about to come to the gauntlet. Alright, so looks like St. Joe is now on his coffee break. So remember, hydrate yourselves. We have been going at it for about 3 hours now. If you've not gotten any water, I just want to remind you, drink some water. We've been rolling for a while together, folks. So it's all about staying hydrated. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Alright, so Pika Pals is now on Warrior Boss. St. Joe, again, on his coffee break. Looks like he's about finishing up. Ludris, though, is finishing up. Oh, that's a little bit rough on Ludris' side. Yeah, just take it easy. Just go ahead and do that. Alright, Ludris is through that. Pika Bow's on this boss. St. Joe, of course, on this elevator sequence that is a mini gauntlet through several different portions of this facility. If only we could find a way through it, make it somewhat easy. And of course, Warrior Boss is always silly and drinks the battery juice. Big Joe, meanwhile, is on his way to one of the connected aisleways. Ludris continues to work his way quite well through World 1-3. You only have 3 runners that are still doing times. Half Beastie said that he didn't quite end the day as he wanted, but still has submitted his best time today. So only 3 runners are continuing their runs so far today. We have St. Joe, Pika Pals, and Ludris all gunning for that 54:34 time, or 54:24 from Half Beastie, or the elusive 53:08. Which is the world record. It still can be done. Okay, Ludris making his way up through... Oh, this is the end of 1-3. Okay. Took me a second. You'd think after watching this game all day, I would have the stages memorized or something. Alright, meanwhile, Pika Pals is set up very well for, I would say, for lack of a better term, the Donkey Kong kart racer. You guys didn't mind that joke, or you didn't object to it too loudly, so I'm going to keep saying it until someone objects. But it is our minecart racer period. Again, depending on if you're using a controller or the keyboard and mouse for this particular section, it can make all the difference in how easy this particular section is to control. The rest of the game is mostly folks using controllers, but I've heard of a few runners switch over to keyboard and mouse specifically for this part that Pika Pals is on right now. In the meantime, Ludris about to start his fight with the warrior boss. And St. Joe still working his way here through World 2-3. World 2-3 by itself is worth 15 minutes. It's... I say it over and over and over and over and over again. But it's the worst. Meanwhile, yeah, St. Joe continues to work. Pika Pals continues going. Ludris is set up on... still on box phase, so still doing reasonably well. Of course, wanted to let everyone know about other action going on the Speed Gaming Network. Going on right now. There is a Link to the Past randomizer, Open League Season 5 race going on right now over on Speed Gaming 2. Later this evening at 9:30 Eastern, there is a Zelda 1 randomizer weekly race that will be going on at 9:30 on Speed Gaming 2. It does look like there's also a Final Fantasy randomizer winter tournament that will be on at some point. We don't quite know which channel yet. At 9:40. Just make sure to follow all the Speed Gaming channels, Speed Gaming and Speed Gaming 2 through 6. One of these days, the Ocho, it will be done. I know it's out there. Alright, Pika Pals is through the 2-1 skip out of bounds. Meanwhile, St. Joe is on our engineer boss. Ludris through the warrior boss is moving on to World 2 for himself as well. So, following closely in Pika Pal's footsteps. Alright, Pika getting through this boss, not boss, but Gauntlet in World 2-1. Let's see, at 25-51 is a little bit slower pace than what we were on earlier, so not looking to break any records unless he can make up some time in some of these later levels. Now, it's lucky that most of the time saves end up being in the third world. The World 2 right now, where we're in, there's... well, he's getting ready to join World 2-3, which is... I've said it too many times, you guys know. It's horrible. But he answers at 26:33. So this is the bulk of the journey right here, unfortunately. Meanwhile, St. Joe picking up some extra coins at 39 minutes is through the engineering boss into 4. So about 3 minutes behind the pace that was previously set. St. Joe has turned in a couple of really good times. He was at 1:02, I believe, earlier this evening. At 1:02.45 from Joe earlier, so he's come down quite a bit. And Pika Pal starting his coffee break. Just a reminder, get your water. All right, St. Joe looks like he's setting up 3-1 out of bounds, which so far looks good. This is not the blind jump. 3-2 is the blind jump, so this one is relatively straightforward, but it does have a bit of a difficult gauntlet at the very end of it. Again, worth noting, this gauntlet that St. Joe is on is very difficult. This 3-1 area, there's explosions all around you, there's not a whole lot of health containers, and there's enemies diving at you kind of from different corners. It can be incredibly chaotic and worth keeping an eye on because there's been a lot of deaths at this particular gauntlet section. Here's Ludris over here doing his skip for 2-1. That lip is just perfectly placed there. St. Joe's still working his way. He's playing it safe through this gauntlet, but certainly finds a way to get past. Moving on to a 3-2. Again, world with the blind skip and transitioning back to the warrior dash. Makes sense. Pika Pals, meanwhile, still working this way through 2-3. St. Joe currently just about to this blind jump part. Pika Pals still set up, doing very well with the gauntlet. Using that mage ball very effectively. That's something that, again, relatively newly integrated into the speedrun, just because it can do that blast damage that can hurt you. So you have to be very confident with that Mage Ball, otherwise it can do some blowback damage. But as long as it's not exploding near you, you're doing fine. Here's that blind jump for St. Joe, and nails it. Ludris, now on his this is our last coffee break for the entire run, folks. I am sad to report this is our last coffee break. So please refill your beverages. Meanwhile, St. Joe is on this mini boss in World 3-2. Again, mini gauntlet, but making sure you're destroying the crystals as you're going through here. I mentioned a brief part earlier about how in World 2-3 here on Peek Outside, there are small encounters that train you how to defeat the boss of the world. Same thing is going on St. Joe's side. This is an encounter with who will be the end boss in World 3-4, but a little bit of training, letting you know, hey, here is how you're going to be able to beat that boss, because you're going to have to defeat crystals to make him weak. So, overall, that's just good game design, folks. So Pika Pals moves on to boss 2 for the engineer boss, while St. Joe's is finishing up here in 4-2 or in 3-2. Ludris is just starting really his 2-3 zone, so still some time there. Meanwhile, St. Joe on 3-3 now. Again, not opting not to do the skull skip, instead taking the time to clear out and place all of these skulls in their proper location. And I think that's the reason why you don't see a lot of people who do skull skip, because of that particular section is not overly difficult, but it does save time if you can nail it perfectly. I think it also enables you to skip this section where you have to kind of wall flip a fire turret. Although I'm not entirely sure about the route because again, I've only seen it done a couple times. And Pika Pals finishes off the boss in 37:58. Okay. Again, all the time saves are really in World 3 because of all the skips that are going on. So, worth watching this until the end for Pika Pals. St. Joe, meanwhile, is just finishing up here 3-3, going to get these skips that are associated to move past. There's some cutscenes, and there's supposed to be things that we fight, but instead of fighting things, how about we just jump over the door that's blocking us? It's a whole lot easier. Meanwhile, Pika Pals perfectly executes the skips needed in World 3-1. So is getting set up for this gauntlet, which again, never easy. Meanwhile, St. Joe is going to start on the mage boss here. And it's not, again, this isn't an easy boss, and we don't do it as intended in the speedrunning community. We certainly take our skips wherever we can get them. We creating these platforms to jump up the pillars. Again, not intended. But when is anything intended? Kudos to Joe. These are all like blind to semi-blind jumps that he's doing right over here. Like you see, the world is not being terribly kind to him. But he set that up reasonably well, and I don't know if that was ideal, but I tell you what, what's more important as a speedrunner is finding something that works for you. There's the ideal way to do it, and you can practice that. But if you can find some way that works for you, and you can do it consistently without losing any time, that's more important than anything. So St. Joe gets through that fight very quickly at 54 minutes. He's got about 8 minutes to beat the final boss for his PB. Pika Pals, meanwhile, just finished up that World 1, so it is now on to World 2, 3-2. Again, this is where the blind skip comes in. All right. St. Joe is starting his hamster ball. Meanwhile, Pika Pals is on his way. This is a 3-2 skip, which, again, not free. It's not a free skip by any stretch. You have to have a bit of a blind jump here directly. We'll, Pika has certainly shown a mastery of all these sorts of skips. We'll see what he ends up pursuing here after this. And oh yeah, just does it. That was smooth, Pika. All right, Ludris is now starting his engineer boss. And St. Joe bouncing around in his happy hamster ball. I remember seeing someone in the Discord asking Big Sugar, it's like, yeah, can you just do DLC of the hamster ball area? Like, well, we just want more hamster balls. I am all for that, by the way, Big Sugar, if you're listening in. Just more hamster ball sections, some bonus content. Alright, Pika is through 3-2 at 45-41. That's actually quite a bit of time made up there on Pika Pal's side, so he's on good pace right now. Here is 3-3, just with the famous, is he going to do Skull Skip, or is he not even going to try? St. Joe, you're making me nervous, buddy. Oh, St. Joe, can you do it? Do we have the time? He beats it. Just a little cutscene away. And St. Joe does it 59-54. Another sub-hour run from St. Joe. GG. That is our third runner with a sub-hour time in TriFox. GG's to St. Joe. St. Joe went from an hour 8 to 59-54 today. So GG's to you, St. Joe, on just the massive improvement today, more than anything. Pika, meanwhile, finishing up his world 3-4. And those enemies are not being kind to him. But he's... Oh, can he get over? Oh no! That is such bad luck on Pika Pal's side. The enemies just would not let the turrets live long enough for him to get up and over, and did just enough damage that he couldn't quite get over there. Oh, that was rotten luck. That was a bit of a time waste that I know Pika didn't necessarily want to see. That 49-10 now. Meanwhile, Ludris is on, looks like 3-1, just starting his 3-1 journey with this skip here. So now we got Pika Pals and Ludris on their last runs. Pika Pals is on this final boss of World 3. And again, we completely break this one because, hey, movable platforms, who would have thought? Completely game breaking in a platformer. Alright. And Pika Pals climbs the ladder for this last one, and if he can make it all the way around the world on this one, this is, I think, the part that most runners have struggled with today, making it all the way around to this fourth one, and yeah, it's usually that drop right there. And from here, we are done, and Pika is through. And we are on to the final boss stage, complete with Hamster Ball. Ludris, meanwhile, at 50 minutes, is on World 3-1. Alright, so Pika is prepping. I mean, this mini gauntlet here typically isn't a huge deal between all the different... I mean, in the vanilla game, I'm sure you're supposed to have a full complement of tons of stuff you can do. But now we got a hamster ball. Ludris, meanwhile, again, on this 3-1 gauntlet at the end of the stage. Not an easy gauntlet. This is one where there's lots of damage falling out. Several runners have had runs end on that one. But again, gets through. So at 52 minutes, Ludris gets through and on his way to World 3-2. You know, I have seen that hamster ball jump about a dozen times today, and I've never seen it not hit that left truck or whatever it is that's right there. Curious. That might just be how the game's programmed, or if you have any control over it. I don't recall ever not hitting that that side. Alright, so Pika Pals now on the final boss. Ludris now sets up for this little bit of a blind jump here. Ooh, Ludris, that was close. Very nicely done, but that was close. Alright, so far Pika is doing reasonably well on this boss. Certainly dishing out the damage. The problem is right now, oh, well-timed Mage Ball right there. We saw this from Pika before. It's just gotta hang on, not die. Oh, didn't quite get it before a phase change, so now we have lots of... And he fell, and we're gonna get a reset, unfortunately. Oh, and that's too bad for Pika Pals. And with that, it looks like Pika's going to call it quits on that one. You know what? I don't blame him. That was really rough. He was close to getting a PB, but had otherwise done really well today. Did finish with a 56:36 time earlier today, so good enough for second place so far. Ludris right now is unfortunately cannot. He's doing fine on this run, and we'll check on what our availability is for the rest. But so far, based on everyone who has finished right now. First place for this particular contest is going to go to Half Beastie with a 54-24. Second place to and second place to Pika Pals at 56-36. But more importantly than that, I think lots of runners were setting personal bests kind of across the board today. We've had our third runner hit sub-hour with St. Joe, so big shout out to St. Joe as well. And then, you know, we have Cell Kuthound with is 1:12:31, who had just a tremendous run for himself as well today. Ludris was able to get Skull Skip done, so, and let's see who else. St. Joe, Cell Kuthound, Half Beast, and Ludris, just everyone in the community made tremendous strides, I think, so far for this particular speed run today. So we did not break the world record held by Half Beast. That 38 or 53:08 holds strong, at least so far today. But lots of progress made overall. So GG's again to all of our runners. We're gonna stick around here with Ludris for just a little bit here. All right, everyone. From the looks of it, I think uh, Ludris is going to call it. But a big shout out. I want to give a 100% shout out to every one of our participants: Half Beastie, Peekapel, Selcouth Mind, St. Joe, and Ludris. All of the folks who were doing runs and who got PBs today. Congratulations to you. I do want to give a shout out also to Feasel, our wonderful tournament organizer. Big Sugar Games for approaching speed gaming about all these tournaments. Always love working with small developers and putting on a show at this point. With that, just a reminder again, there is the Zelda 1 randomizer weekly race. It's going to be over on Speed Gaming 2 at 9:30 Eastern time tonight. So you have about an hour and a half to go get some dinner. There's also a Final Fantasy randomizer winter tournament race. It's going to start about 9:40 as well. So lots of things going on the Speed Gaming Network. So make sure to follow us here at Speed Gaming and at Speed Gaming 2 through 6 for all of the other speed runs going on. This has been the Chase for the Record Tournament. My name's Vitasia for the Speed Gaming Network, signing off. Have a great evening, everyone, and we'll see you at the next race.